This year's celebration of the 500th anniversary of the victory of Mactan and the circumnavigation of the world coincides with the quincentennial of the coming of Roman Catholic Christianity to the Philippines. Although our Constitution has enshrined the separation of church and state, Roman Catholicism, aside from being demographically ascendant, still exerts great influence in Philippine state and society. I am Jethro Calacday from Yale Divinity School, and in my review essay, I go beyond the secularizing narrative of the separation of church and state by considering four recent monographs that tackle U.S. imperialism, Roman Catholicism, and the Philippines, namely Tisa Wenger's Religious Freedom, The Contested History of an American Ideal, Catherine Moran's The Imperial Church, Catholic Founding Fathers and United States Empire, John McGreevy's American Jesuits and the World, How an Embattled Religious Order Made Modern Catholicism Global, and Deirdre de la Cruz's Mother Figure, Marian Apparitions and the Making of a Filipino Universal. In the essay, I first argue that recent historiography at the intersection of American Empire, Catholicism, and the Philippines has marked a methodological departure from the rudimentary political and diplomatic histories of a previous era. By focusing on aspects such as race, ideology, and culture, recent works are creatively retelling the history of Catholicism's role in American Empire. Second, the four monographs show how, despite Protestant America's avowal of the separation of church and state, the U.S. colonial regime had to contend and critically engage the institutional church to justify its presence in the Philippines. Catholicism, both as an institution and as an idea, lent itself to the imperial project of the U.S. in the Philippines. This view challenges the long-held assumption that the Catholic Church lost any influence it wielded during the Spanish colonial period. By looking at this particular moment in history, we make sense of the present situation of the Church's continued ascendance in Philippine state and society, that there was indeed a relationship between America and Rome inherited by the modern Philippine state. Moreover, this perspective challenges the secular ethos of American imperialism, coded as Protestant, and suggests that American imperialism, contrary to it being a negation of Spanish imperialism, was actually a synthesis and continuation of the latter. Third, and I now speak to historians of the U.S., I contend that recent historiography is realizing the centrality of the Philippines in the history of America's rise as a global imperial power. It is particularly important to point out the precise moment and manner of this emergence, 1898, with the annexation of not just Puerto Rico and Cuba, but most importantly of the Philippines, all the way across the Pacific. The Philippines, as recent works have shown, is pivotal in the narrative of American global imperialism, and much more interestingly, this narrative is not secular, given that Roman Catholicism looms large in it.